smiling leader fan Radio Network, and KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 36 seconds past the hour, 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to a Monday edition of the Afternoon Aardvark on a very, very busy and very moist and warm Monday afternoon here in the Twin Cities that we like to refer to as Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro. I host the program, and I am joined, as always, by Guardsy, the producer of the show, who my sources say will be leaving us later this week to travel to the Windy City. Is that correct? Chicago?
Not this week.
Oh, it's next week.
Next
I'm sorry.
week.
I don't know why I thought this was the week.
Because football's in the air.
Because I just saw, did the SEC just have a convention?
They're having it right now. SEC Media Day. I think Big 12 was last week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
But I guess
Mountain West was last week.
We're getting closer and closer as we speak.
1 week from tomorrow, I will be heading to Chicago.
1 week from tomorrow. Okay, that's good to know.
No Cubs games when I'm there, which is devastating.
That's too bad.
I know.
Go to see the Bozic's White Sox.
Yeah, but Coomdog can't give me tickets to that. I want to see Coomdog.
I bet you could.
He could, but he's not going to be there. You know, he's going to be in St. Louis with the Cubs. I want to see Coomdog. That, to me, is even more fun than going to the game.
Well, they were not going to move the media day to St. Louis, are they?
Probably not.
On your behalf?
No, probably not.
Didn't think that they would.
So I'll be here all week, baby.
Johnny Athletic scheduled to join us today at, I believe, 5:30 this evening. We'll talk about how he feels, given that he has been scooped by Anthony Edwards. See if he's at all humiliated by that, deflated, or maybe he has a rejoinder. We'll find out at 5:30 today. Jamie Watson's going to join us next segment, so about 3:15, just about 10. Maybe 12 minutes from now. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line has been rebooted, and it's open at 646-86 for your listening pleasure, for your reading pleasure, for your writing pleasure, whatever might indeed work for you. As I'm watching with Giovanni La Roja's rather convincing and yet slightly nerve-wracking 1-0 victory over Argentina to wrap up a remarkable World Cup run. I'm not making this up when I say to you, the guy I was thinking about was not a soccer great. It wasn't Pele, I think they pronounce it now, from back in the day. It wasn't a more recent soccer star. It was Jacques Lemaire, the hockey legend. First coach of the Minnesota Wild, correct?
He was.
How far did he get us one year?
The Western Conference Finals.
Have we ever been back?
Don't believe we have.
Not once.
No.
And what was Jacques Lemaire's, long before actually he got here, by the way, he was an outstanding hockey player for the dynastic Montreal Canadiens. Broke little Danny Barreiro's heart back in the early 70s. Won't have to go back to that story again. With a phantom shot from mid-ice that Tony Esposito apparently never saw, Phil Esposito's brother. But he also turned out to be a legendary hockey coach. And he was forever known for what I think in hockey parlance they call the neutral zone trap defense or approach to playing defense. Much maligned in many hockey circles because many of the purists thought it led to about the most boring brand of hockey, that it brought another one of the beautiful games to an utter standstill. It took away much of what I guess a lot of hockey people believe drew them to the game in the first place. But I got to tell you, man, as I'm watching Spain's dissection, if you can dissect in a 1-0 victory, and I think they kind of did, I'm thinking neutral zone trap. In fact, direct translation into English, tiki-taka actually means Lemaire's zone trap. I didn't know that.
Me neither.
I did not know that.
I should have.
But that's what it means.
I took Spanish, too, at multiple universities.
I defy you to tell me I'm wrong on the basis of the fact that Argentina could not get the puck up the ice. Hardly ever through the neutral zone. And almost as soon as they did, tiki-taka was taking it away from them. You know me, I've been watching soccer now for all of the last 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen one team's defense dominate in a single game against the legend to the degree that tiki-taka, La Roja, did last night, or yesterday, I guess you could say, afternoon against Argentina. AI, zone trap defense in hockey, most commonly referred to as the neutral zone trap. A defensive system designed to clog the middle of the ice, slow down the opponent's rush, and force turnovers before they can enter the offensive zone. Let me read you what one of the athletic soccer guys wrote. No team recovered possession more often in the attacking third or allowed their opponents less time on the red ball than did Spain. The desire to win the ball straight back whenever a pass goes astray is what this guy came away with more than any other. On the few occasions where they did give up the ball, it was almost immediately they're winning the ball back. And I don't know do you think Jacques Lemaire likes soccer? I don't know that I ever remember a single quote from Lemaire.
I'm not sure.
On the beautiful game.
I bet he'd appreciate it.
But that's what I was going to say. I have to believe if he did watch yesterday as a guy who I don't know that there's any coach I ever was around in any sport who had a greater appreciation for defense than did Jacques Lemaire. The beauty of defense, the potency of defense, the degree to which it could just suck the life out of the opposition. And tell me that doesn't define exactly what happened yesterday. Now, there's a lot more to the story, and we're going to get to a lot of the other stuff, too, with Jamie Watson. But that's, on the Spain side, is what I came with more and more. And that's what made it so frightening that it was only a 1-goal lead.
Right.
You're going, because everybody was assuming that if it went to penalty kicks, Spain had lost its last 3.
They're 1 for their last 6, I think.
I think you're right, like 1-5 over the last 6. And so the assumption was, well, then if you let Argentina tie it, they're going to steal it. And by the way, they had opportunities late.
A lot.
They had suddenly a shocking number of opportunities late. But you're looking at a game of we talked about this too, that soccer is one of those games where part of defense is possession. Like in basketball, if you're good at scoring, the other team's going to get the ball. There's nothing you can do to avoid that.
There's a shot clock.
In football, right, that's true. In football, if you score a touchdown, you're going to give up the ball, right? Soccer's the one game so defense is stopping the other team when they have the ball. Now, you could say a good offense in football is also slowing the game down.
Right,
possession, ball control, that.
Running it.
But soccer's the one where part of defining great defense, it's different. It is literally, look this up. If the other team doesn't have the ball, they can't score. It's physically impossible to score a goal if the other team doesn't have touched the puck. Isn't that correct?
It is correct, unless there's a weird own goal. But
yes, that's true.
You're right. And I had the same feeling you did as I was watching it after literally having Argentina with no shots. They show the graphic where it's like 20 shots for Spain, 11 shots on goal. Argentina goaltender, brilliant, by the way. That was so much fun to watch him. And Argentina, 0 shots on goal. And at the end, the last handful of minutes of the extra time, I had every belief that Argentina was going to tie it up.
I felt it too.
The one, even where Messi kind of had it and got it right to the middle, and it was a Spain guy that kicked it out. I thought they were going to tie it up, impossibly, but they just came up a little bit short there.
Argentina's first shot of any kind in the World Cup final arrived in the 115th minute.
Right.
Which is an all-time record at the Cup. Spain finished with 20 shots to Argentina's 2, 12 on target to none. And here's the other stat that I don't even know if this is a stat, but another observation that was passed along to me. That here, I think it's on page 1 here. Maybe it's page 2. Was it the first half? I said 20 shots to 2. Something called Football 365. That must be football analytic site of
every day.
Argentina committed more first half fouls than it completed passes into the attacking third.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's how absurd it was. That's how one-sided that it was. And yet, one miracle late goal away from penalty kicks, right? Stunning.
Would have been wild.
There's a lot more, including some controversy that, quite frankly, Fox TV did a poor job of covering after the game, but has certainly been covered since elsewhere. We'll get to that and much more with Jamie Watson. But first,
the fan at BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. First keyword of the week is bank. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword bank.
Dan Barreiro. Worry is part of our life.
What I got. 1 goal allowed, fewest in a tournament by a champion in World Cup history. 7 shutouts, most in a single tournament in World Cup history. And 0.3 expected goals against, best by a champion in the last 60 years. So with that setup, we ask our next guest, Jamie Watson, is the Spain that we just saw wrap things up yesterday, is that the best soccer defense you have ever seen?
Oh, hey, you're coming with the hard-hitting questions right off the bat, huh?
Yep.
No prisoner of the moment here.
No. And hey, there's recency bias. There is that. You can speak to that. I might be overreacting to it, although those numbers are pretty impressive.
No, you're not wrong. Everything that you just said makes the case for why statistically Spain did show one of the best defenses that we have ever seen in the World Cup. So, yeah, maybe we just saw the best defensive performance. I mean, I guess the next best thing you could say is if they didn't give up any goals. So,
yes, that's true. All of
yeah, I guess Spain maybe did just give us the best defensive performance in the World Cup we have ever seen. It was incredible to watch. They toyed with, dismantled, and absolutely picked apart Argentina.
All right, here's what I want to do. Garcia, I want to play, we have about 2 minutes of sound that gets into not just the result, but the belief on the part of many analysts that this was not a good game and that they seem bothered as much by the approach Argentina took as they are saluting Spain's ability to frustrate the other team. But this is I think it's one of the ESPN crews. There are 3 different analysts on this broadcast. Garzi has edited it for about 2 minutes long. I want you to listen to this because I'm very curious to know whether you agree, disagree, or maybe somewhere in between. Let's listen.
But I don't think anyone, unless you're an Argentina supporter, will be more pleased than what we saw Spain lifting the World Cup because, goodness me, that was embarrassing from the defending champions, wasn't it?
I'd go as far as to say Argentina were a complete and utter disgrace today, both with their performance and their antics. We expected the antics. We expected the thuggery. We expected the off-the-ball stuff. But we also expected a lot more on the ball, a lot more purpose, a lot more about their play. They were an utter shambles. They were disgusting, disgraceful. And yeah, I mean, I'm so pleased Spain won. And I could just see a scenario at the end there, but before Spain scored, that it was going to go to penalties or they were going to get a scruffy goal, Argentina, and win this. And Spain tried. They tried to make it a good game. They tried to get over the line. The finishing wasn't quite great. Martinez made a lot of saves, but they were comfortable saves. But we know Argentina are not the greatest side they've ever been, but to put that kind of performance in a World Cup final, that negative, It was a disgusting performance.
We were talking before the game that that the final of the World Cup was the biggest game ever.
Yeah.
And we have been presented. We saw that game, and in fact, it was a bad image of football.
It was everything that's bad with the game, really.
Yeah, exactly. We showed the worst of the worst. Well, they showed the worst of the worst. Congratulations to Spain, and there is nothing to say about Spain because they tried, but it's impossible to play. And I have to include the referee at some point. You know, Paredes came on half-time. After 15 minutes, he should have been sent off, because he came just to put the mess in the middle of the park. And they didn't try to play. As Craig said, we were ready for that, the dirty part of their football. But we were expecting something else, and we didn't have that. So it was completely negative, and that's unbearable for me. And the football is different. The way I see the football, and I was a defender, is absolutely different to what I saw today. It was a shame. It was a bad image of football. And I thought the 1990 final, Argentina again against Germany, was the worst of the worst. No, we found worse. This one.
Where do you want to begin, Jamie Watson? My apologies. I didn't have my
man.
mic on. Yeah. I was so overcome by that, I forgot my mic.
Yeah. So that was what you heard there was you heard three players there. I saw that clip. The ESPN FC, they were breaking it down after the game. That was Craig Burley, that was Frank LaBeouf, and then Steve McManaman came in afterwards and I think provided maybe the last little bit of that clip there. Three players that have played in a World Cup. And they said everything that was honest, that was accurate, and that was without holding back. That is a accurate assessment of what players who have played in a World Cup. And look, I've played in a youth World Cup, so I cannot sit here and say I've played in a full men's World Cup. But I played in a youth one, and I understand there are performances that just get the job done, and then there are performances that we saw from Argentina yesterday that you say they got it completely wrong. And I started out enjoying the game with my family as I'm watching it. And I'm watching it and cheering along with my son Jameson, who wanted Messi and Argentina to win, and my oldest son Cade wants Spain to win. And I'm watching them go back and forth. And then by each passing minute, watching Argentina refuse to attack, just sit in, do next to nothing offensively, and then do all the antics. Each minute that passed, I slowly converted from wanting Messi and Argentina to win to by the end of the 90 minutes and into the 30 minutes extra time, I was praying to the soccer gods that we did not have Argentina win a game in which they were so unenthusiastic about actually trying to play the game to win. And I was like, full on, Spain deserved this more than anything. It was as bad of a performance in the final as you could have imagined from Argentina, and Spain fully deserved to win yesterday and over the body of work of the 8 games in this tournament. They were deserved champions, without a doubt.
It's so interesting because you and I have been on several times now, and I've celebrated this whole event. And obviously, I was rooting for Spain. I mentioned my father was born there, and so I reveled in the result, no question. But I can't, if I'm being honest, say that I saw a great game. And so help us understand what happened to Argentina, because I know there are some people who say, well, that's what Spain does at its best. But I'm not sure that explains it enough for me. And that was my disappointment. I wanted to see some engagement, like soccer engagement, not chippy engagement. And they never even had the ball. And I know some of that is what Spain does really well. We talked about, I compared it to the neutral zone trap in hockey, the famous Jacques Lemaire defense that everybody hated because it seems to take the life out of the game. And they take the life out of other teams' offenses. But to me, this seemed to go beyond that. How do we explain it in terms of the Argentina approach and execution?
You know what? I genuinely wonder if Argentina watched Spain dismantle a far superior France side to what the Argentina side put together. And if they watched that performance in the other semifinal the night before they played, and I wonder if after they beat England, they all had a look in the mirror and thought, we're not as good as those guys, and we don't need to try to be. I think they looked at Spain and said, let's give it a boxing analogy here.
Yeah.
Spain looks like it's Mike Tyson in his prime. So were you ever going to see any boxer get into the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime and just try to outpunch him? Is that what you would do? Because I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I would try to do all the other things except standing there and throw fisticuffs and go blow for blow with Spain or with Mike Tyson. I would try to do all the things that made it unattractive, that was effective, not necessarily aesthetically pleasing. And that's what Argentina did. They looked at this Spanish side, and I think there was an honest realization that Argentina knew, even with the greatest player of all time, they were not as good as Spain. And they had no interest in trying to go outplay Spain. They just wanted to do enough to get it over the line. And here's what I will say. When Argentina got a red card, Argentina was already playing 11 on 11, but really it was like 11 on 10 defensively because Lionel Messi does not play defense. Yeah. And everyone just is okay with that because of his offensive brilliance. Mm-hmm. But when Enzo Fernandez gets a red card and it's now 11 on 10, it's really like 11 on 9.
Good point.
And this was never going to happen, but I told both of my boys, Dan, I said the best thing Argentina could do if they wanted to win, and it's never going to happen, but you need to take Lionel Messi off the field right now and actually get a forward that's capable of running around, playing defense, helping see this match out, but can also run in behind on the counterattack because there was no threat to get in behind. And that's why you saw all of Spain's players in Argentina's attacking half.
That's fascinating. And what's interesting about it is there were a couple of moments where I'm watching and I'm literally watching Messi do nothing. He's standing there. The ball's not even that far from him, but he's not even making any kind of attempt to do anything with it. To your point about it's accepted, okay, he's on here for offense, but when you're already down 1, effectively, it's a great point. You end up being down 2. Offensively,
but you're never going to do it, though, are you? Are you going to be the coach that takes out the greatest player of all time in a World Cup final? I don't want that to be my legacy.
No, you're not going to. You probably aren't going to survive returning to the home country, right? I don't even know if you'll survive the trip. That's true. So, did Spain do anything particularly with Messi on offense that was strategic, or was it did they just play it straight up, or because he even offensively he did not have much.
Yeah, they were aggressive with them, but at the same time, it just was a day in which Argentina never really got out of their defensive shell. Spain, I think, focused on themselves and were as dialed into keeping the ball. And, you know, that defense is not giving the other team the ball, and that's what Spain focused on doing. They had something like 65% of the possession. I think at one point it was like 17 shots, like 12 of them on goal. Yeah. Argentina had zero shots at that point. I mean, it was total dominance with the ball. They didn't allow Lionel Messi to really get into a rhythm, nor any of the Argentine players. And it just came down to Spain were the better team. And it was not a matter of if they were going to score, it was when they were going to score and if they were going to be able to do it before the end of 120 minutes, which they finally did. And then anything that was generated from Argentina that padded the stats to make back 2 shots and a 0.3 expected goal total was as they were just chasing the game and throwing everything forward. But yeah, Spain were that good, and they deserve to win. But what I hope is that, you know, while this wasn't necessarily the cherry on top that we were all hoping for this World Cup, my hope that this legacy of this World Cup is that, one, it was so entertaining from start to finish. Yep. And really, the 90 minutes that we saw in the field 104 different times for these 104 different games was obviously that's A. But 1B to this was just how amazing it was to see people come together at the Fan Fest. You know, I'm walking around with the game on my phone, and I'm watching others have the game on their phone, and we're now striking up the conversation to talk about it. You know, we're having this conversation because of the World Cup. That's really, truly the legacy is this World Cup, is how it brought everybody together for these last 39 days, and it was absolutely remarkable to see and to be a part of, and I hope that's what really remembers, and I hope what this does now, because I've lived this, right? I lived 6 years in Minnesota. I know how many people say, that soccer sucks. It's no good. Like, get that off my TV. Right. Really, like, I think what this World Cup has shown is soccer doesn't suck, Dan. It's actually really fun. And even if you don't care about what happens on the field, it's still really fun to see how much of a buy-in there is and how much it brings people together. And nobody hates that. It's actually really fun to be a part of something. So go find it, Minnesota Loons. Go find it with our good friend Andrea Yock and her team with USLW Minnesota Roar. Like, go find that again. It'll be at a lesser scale, but you can't say soccer sucks now. It was awesome, and it was so much fun to be a part of. And whether you care about the game or not, it's still fun to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, isn't it? Like the camaraderie and the community that soccer brought together over the last 39 days.
Tell me a little bit, give me some insight into what apparently took place after the game, because I was blissfully, I guess, unaware of any kind of skirmishes because the cameras didn't show much. They did show an animated Argentina manager, but it was hard to figure out what he was doing. And it sounds like there were several skirmishes that TV either didn't have cameras on or didn't cover, because there's been a lot of conversation also just about Argentina's deportment after the loss.
Yeah, it was really bad to see. Look, I get the emotions are high, and this is the biggest hurt that Argentina will feel because of the fact that you get into you're in the dying moments of the game with a chance to win the World Cup, and now for the rest of your lifetime you'll be left with what if and, almost and maybe. But when the game is done and you've lost, you cannot represent yourself and your country the way Argentina did. That was embarrassing. There was one of the players, Raju, was running to go celebrate with his teammates, and he gets punched in the stomach. And then, from there, one of the other guys, he comes over to say something to the guy, and another one, there's videos from all around the standings. Paredes, it was on a yellow card, was trying to get himself a second yellow card. He's now punching players. I mean, it was an example of sour grapes and not being able to just take it on the chin, man. You lost. It sucks. But you don't sit there and just try to fight everybody because you lost the game. You got to be able to just say, fair enough, good game, and keep it moving from there. But it was just Argentina deciding they couldn't hold themselves to a higher standard when adversity was at its peak, and it was embarrassing and it was bad to see, and I wish it wouldn't happen. We should have been talking about them just going, fair enough, you beat us. They turned their back during the trophy celebration.
Yeah, right.
I've never lost in the World Cup finals. I don't know that feeling, but I can imagine you can at least have enough respect to just not do what they did. That was disappointing. And it wasn't everybody, but it was a few of them that really didn't represent themselves well.
Well, there are some people who have called out Messi, saying in that position as a leader, that's part of what his role has to be. And he was obviously devastated. He's crying. He's probably over for him. But, what are the roles of, because I'd like to think if you are the guy that, there would have been a part of you that would in that situation. We certainly ask it in athletes and other sports too sometimes to just step in and try to given your place, your standing within the team, is that too much to ask for?
I get what you're saying with this, Dan. I don't know if that's on Messi in that moment because he's going through it himself. He may know that this is his last moment representing Argentina. He's absolutely heartbroken. And then, that team, by the way, if he says jump, they just start jumping, and he'll let them know when that's the stop jump. You're right. There is one player he's in that category of like LeBron having control of the team and the organization. Argentina is run by Lionel Messi. Make no mistake about it. So if he would have looked at him and given it cut it out, they probably would have likely listened. But in that moment, I get the question of how much leadership does he show by not breaking it up, but that's on the individuals that are doing it. No other way around it. They're the ones
adults.
They're professionals. They're adults. They're the ones that decided to show the worst side of themselves in that moment. And it's not on Messi to go and babysit these other adults. Just deal with it yourself and represent yourself better. It's not on Messi to sit there and, babysit them in that moment. That's on those guys clearly acting childish in that moment. There's no other way around it.
Soccer analyst Jamie Watson, kind enough to join us. I was reminded of something else yesterday that a number of the commentators have talked about, that it did appear that part of the Argentina strategy was let's try to get them going. Let's try to suck them into the chippiness, and then maybe they get off of their game a little bit. We talk about this in hockey all of the time, obviously. Basketball, it's a big topic of conversation. And I was reminded it can be true of soccer and the world stage as well, that one of the things Spain did well is they didn't seem to allow themselves, they had the discipline to not get down and allow it to become kind of a farce in that sense.
Yeah, the mental toughness that Spain showed was next level, and it's deserving of being world champions. Like, this was a group that understood they didn't really have their superstar in Lamine Yamal, who's 19 years old. They didn't have him at his absolute best.
Right.
But what they were a group that were focused on what they wanted to achieve together. They were a collection of the sum of the individual parts together. And it just went to show that this was a group that was all moving in the same direction. And the way that they were able to achieve the goal that they set out was because they had the teamwork and they had the mental resilience in the highest pressure moment you could possibly think of. You can't manufacture this. And two of the players on the field are just 19 years old. I don't know what you were doing at 19, but I wasn't playing in a World Cup final. It was insane. Actually, that's the follow-up question after this. What were you doing at 19 years old, Dan? I think the listeners want to know this, but these guys represented themselves so well. And, at 19, two of those guys are lifting trophies in Spain as they figured out they're going to be good after winning the European Championships 2 years ago, winning the World Championships this year and World Cup. They're going to be good for a very, very long time, Dan. So really, what were you doing at 19?
Would have been Indiana University, Wilkie Quad, probably drinking a beer, even though I didn't even like beer because everybody else was drinking the beer at the Friday night kegger. That's the sad reality. I went along.
So was it Natty Ice or was it were you living the high life with?
You know what?
With the champagne of beers.
I don't even remember. I honestly don't. It came out of a keg, and I don't even know what it was. I just know there were people around. One last question for you, and I thought of you immediately when I read this. Earlier in the tournament, I read an interesting piece about Spain and their style, the approach of the soccer team historically. And one of the things they talked about was that no matter what part of the country you're dealing with, if you become part of sort of the national program, there is a style that Spain plays, and you learn it early. You either accept it or you really don't play. And I thought of that because that's exactly, when we were talking about the U.S. and the legacy for the future, that's exactly what you talked about was getting to a place where, again, you want to have some creative expression, obviously, and some freedom, but a uniform philosophy about what's guiding some of your soccer tenets, some of the basic principles. And it was fascinating to hear that reporter. Actually, it was I don't even think it was a reporter. I think it might have even been a soccer player articulating how that is held together in Spain. Certainly makes sense to me, and it's something you had brought up with us last time we talked about the U.S. approach in this tournament.
I think getting that synergy would be so important from top to bottom. That would be really, really important to get the youth teams playing all the way up to the top teams, the full team, the same exact way. And look, Emma Hayes is doing the U.S. women's national team. She's getting the under 23s and the full women's team together. So if you're not quite at the full team level, but you're in that 20, 21-year-old range, and you're just trying to break into the full national team, you're playing the same way at that camp as you would be with the full team. I think there's a way forward with that. It's just going to take a lot of money and the right person to be able to do that. So if I can find that, I'll look under a rock and see if I can help fix U.S. soccer's problems with, $20 million to try to keep that coach around for the next 4 years or so, if that's what it would take. But man, I think the brightest thing is I think this is going to be a generational shift of getting people on board with soccer and then paying attention to it more, whether that's just watching games and going to, whether it's Brit's Pub or it's going to Blackheart, it's going to all these different pubs that support soccer and watching that, going to local games like we talked about, the Loons in Aurora and town, and just being involved in the game to, taking your kids to games, providing them opportunities to see games. Like, that's just going to help it move forward. And I hope it'll be enjoyable to do it. And this World Cup has been incredible connecting us. I mean, I'm talking to Guardsy again more often. Yep. I'm talking to you, Dan. As soon as I hung up last time, Chris Hockey was texting me. I felt so bad I didn't, tell him thanks for all the times that him and Corey and Sauce gave me an opportunity to go on and do KFAN and the Power Trip, and how much fun that was with AJ back in the day, man. And Chad Abbott, of course, leading the way. You guys are so incredible at what you do, and I really hope the listeners and the groups, I think they do understand, but I really hope they fully get just how great you guys are at what you do and how much you care and how instrumental you are. Fair and balanced. Sometimes you need the criticism that you get, and then sometimes you give the praise when it's deserved, but you guys do, and I really appreciate that it's brought us together to be able to have these conversations, and I've enjoyed every second of it. I hope you have, and I hope you're
100%. It's been great. It's been great to get reacquainted. This will be, I promise, the last question. How, from your perspective, how important is it to keep Pochettino as coach into the next cycle. I think that announcement was supposed to come maybe later this week, unless I've missed it. Is that crucial to you? And are you optimistic or are you concerned about that going forward?
I think it's the right decision to keep him if he's all in. Like we talked about for new listeners that were going, hey, you're giving me breadcrumbs about that previous conversation. I said the idea is you put Mauricio Pochettino under contract until the next cycle. You give him the money he wants, and then if he even has a conversation, says hello to another club, and what's your coaching situation like, he has to give back every penny you've given him, plus a massive penalty as well. So he's financially incentivized to be all in on U.S. soccer. And I think that would be the right decision to have him do that, have the synergy from top to bottom with all the youth national teams. And then we say we've got the last 20 months of good work that's done. We package that with the next 4 years building to the next World Cup. And hopefully the anticipation that we felt match day 1 and 2 of this World Cup, we now feel it building up to that qualifying phase. And then in 4 years' time when this World Cup kicks off in 2030, and hopefully we reach new heights and we say that was the best decision to keep him. And if it's not him, man, we got to find the right coach that helps get us there in that path. So I'll be interested just to see the same way you will. And man, who knows? Maybe when they make the announcement, maybe we come back on and we wax poetic about how prophetic we were in calling that. Or if it's somebody else, we get back on here and we say we have no idea what the heck we were talking about, and who is this new coach that's taking over, guy or gal, whoever it might be.
You've guided us very nicely through this World Cup. We really appreciate all your insight and the time you've given us, and we'll definitely try to stay in touch. Thanks, Jamie.
Next time we're back in the Twin Cities, we'll stop by and do this in person, all right? Thanks,
100%.
Thanks, Garth. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks. That's Jamie Watson, former soccer star here, and now turned soccer analyst as well on a number of different fronts. Has been great for us during the World Cup. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open, and a lot of interesting text coming in via 64686. We'll get into some of those reacting to our conversation. And we will get to the inevitable Minnesota Vikings bulletin board material provided by none other than the shock jock himself, Kevin Seifert.
You're listening to
Dr. Phil wants to know whether, in the end, the Argentina team might have been too moody. Good callback to a subject that has become probably overdone. Speaking of moodiness, Johnny Athletic scheduled to join at 5:30 this evening.
Ooh, boy.
Dan, didn't you just rant less than 2 weeks ago about how everything has to be a discussion of is blank the best ever? And here we are wondering if La Roja's defense is the best ever. Yes, I did rant about that, but the stats I quoted indicate that statistically this is the best defense ever. And so when I threw out the question, it's to elicit a response, which I think we ultimately got. But there is a difference, I think, when you have a team that by several metrics has done something that literally has never been done before. I think it's fair game to at least explore it. It's a little more complicated when you say, is this player the best ever? Because what analytics are you using for that? This is a team analytic that indicated that this group has done stuff through this tournament that no one else indeed has. No one talks about how horrible 1-0 game is when you're talking about 1991 Game 7 World Series, which is a great point. That's been one of my pet peeves about dismissing any soccer game because of that. On the other hand, not all 1-0 games are equal, and I would say this one, as much as I enjoyed it because of who won, as dramatic as it ended up being intense just because it was still in doubt till very late, I can't look at it. If I'm being honest, I've tried to be honest with this whole World Cup thing. Not praise just to praise when it's worthy. In this case, as many of the soccer experts have said, this was not a great game.
Right.
And this wasn't just about what Spain did. It had a lot to do with it because they've done this over and over to teams, but that didn't completely tell the whole story. And I don't know. I mean, you want to buy the Watson analogy is that you can't – they knew they couldn't punch with Spain, But I didn't even think they tried to counter. I mean, there was just no there to their performance, I thought. But
I got a lot of work done during the match. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
It was good background. Then you hear play-by-play guy. When it got a little exciting, you put your head up for a minute. Okay. And then in extra time, you watch it.
Yes.
Eyes right to the TV.
What you wanted was the two teams were great different ways, and you wanted to see that manifest itself. And on the Argentina side, offensively, it never did. Messi never really did. The shock jock, perhaps jealous of all the coverage of the World Cup, is trying to get back into the conversation.
Is that right?
And what does he do? He quotes, and he can hide behind it because he said, well, this is factual. Well, it's not factual. It's ESPN analytics. They put a bunch of stuff into the hopper about each team, in this case, in the NFC North. Okay?
What's our record, 5-12?
And they don't put it that way. They put it this way. Chance of winning the NFC North per ESPN analytics is the way he puts it.
Got it.
Percentage chance of winning the National Football Conference North. Have you seen this?
I haven't. I've seen the betting odds.
Who do you think is number one according to ESPN? Best chance, highest percentage chance of winning the NFC North?
I think they're going with the Bears, I bet.
Not even close.
Really? Is it the Packers?
Not even close.
It's the Lions?
38% to the Lions.
So much for my football knowledge.
33% Packers. 19% Bears, which I think has to do maybe with the schedule because they got a murderous schedule.
That's true.
And wait for it, Minnesota Vikings with a 10% chance of winning the National Football Conference North. There it is.
I did see our betting odds on Get Up this morning.
How do they look?
They reflect that I think we're like plus 550 or something on DraftKings to win the North. Distant fourth. Yeah, I don't remember what the first three were, but I just know the Vikings were on the far right column indicating last place.
Did we end up with the fourth place? No, we ended up the third place schedule, didn't we?
I'll have to double check, but
with our late surge, I thought maybe we did.
Did we have a late surge? I didn't hear about that all offseason from J.J. McCarthy and others.
Yeah, there was a lot of
5 in a row.
And the head coach, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I mean, and you can be offended by it if you're a Vikings fan, I guess. I kid about it being bulletin board material, and we'll have plenty of time. Now we'll start ramping some stuff up here pretty soon with training camp now literally right around the corner. But I think it's hard to argue with it. And part of that, and again, you could say this is a different kind of predicting because allegedly they're putting numbers. I don't even know what they put in. Maybe next time we have Seifert on, we'll ask him, what do they put in the hopper when they analyze these things? But you're coming off, a season where you were dead until you won games after you were mathematically eliminated, for whatever that's worth. You have a mess at the quarterback position. It might be about to get better, but that has yet to be proven. You still have significant questions along your offensive line, right? At some key positions, especially center, but not just there. Defensive line, we've invested through the draft. Where is that going to go? I don't know. And in the pecking order, that's where most people are going to put us right now. That doesn't mean it's the way it, has to end. I mean, I guess the advantage for the Vikings is the KOC can use it, or it can be the old, we're going to fly a little bit under the radar, although in this town, the Vikings never fly under the radar.
No.
Nationally, it's, who are they? What have they really done? They've had 2 good regular seasons, followed by crappy regular seasons and really no postseason success. So there's just not going to be, you could make the argument that the Bears fans have a greater right to be insulted by these analytics than Vikings fans do, given that the fact that how the Bears finished last year.
They won the division by 2 games, basically.
Right.
It wasn't all that particularly close. And I only know that because I did look up where the Vikings finished. Technically, they did finish in 3rd place.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
In the NFC North. They had the same record as the Lions, but obviously had the tiebreaker.
So the Lions got the 4th place schedule.
They did.
And we got so ours is not supposed to be horrible, but it's not as good. Bears schedule, I think, is pretty murderous, I believe.
I would think so. Yeah. You're playing first place teams. It makes sense.
Yeah. There is a lot to get caught up on as we get closer to training camp. But some questions. One of the things that happens every year is you finish with some strong themes on the basis of the way the season went. Not the way the season finished, but just the way the season went, right? We didn't make the playoffs last year. We had the late winning streak, big deal. And you say, well, we got some issues. And one of them is what we're going to do at center, right? Because the guy we went out and got had 18 more concussions, and
Ryan
he's
Kelly,
done, right?
Yep.
So right now, it's your guy Brandel, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, he's been viewed as a guy that, well, you can't start him at that position. You're kidding yourself. But I think what happens is the months go by, and then you kind of forget those concerns that built over the course of the season. But I don't even think they don't get – you can't wish them away. So I'm still sitting here going, well, where are we on the offensive line really then? I don't know. I mean, are we that much in that much better shape than we were a year ago? Now, Fries is healthy. He's back, and allegedly, he'll stay healthier than he was. But even left tackle. I mean, Darisaw, do we know? I mean, we can't. I don't think we can even assume he's the Darisaw we remember before he went down. He's got to prove, A, he can stay healthy.
Be out there.
And B, that he's going to be the same guy. And he might be, but it hasn't happened yet. So that's the kind of stuff that, we got to go back to remember what concerned us at the end of the season. Because I think, as I said, months go by, teams have press conferences, and they go, we feel really good about this, we're really good about that. And you tend to forget the things. You go, wait a minute, how have we addressed those needs? I don't know. We'll find out. And we'll have plenty of time to do that as we get ever closer to training camp opening and our own appearances there, too. Top of the hour pause now. As I mentioned, Johnny Athletic is scheduled for about 5:30 this evening. Back in just a minute with some very, very controversial and vicious texts. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Barreiro on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Quantum Fiber.